Happy to be in the stage fourth time in Hustef, and thanks for having me again in this wonderful event. I am one of the speakers, I think, who survived COVID with Hustef, speaking online also. Yeah, today we're going to speak about efficiency, how we can run the tests, automated tests, fast and efficient. And efficiency here is the key word because we'll talk about how we can make everything that we do more efficient than ever. So shortly about myself, I have under the introduction. I'm in the field for more than 15 years, and I'm in the public speaking more than 7 years, and have been speaking in 45 plus conferences. And again, happy to add another one today in the list. So before talking about the problems, let's talk about why actually we need the speed in test automation. In one of the recent studies, there was the results was that over 50% of the organizations have trouble keeping up with the customer changes. This is very common. Everybody faces the issue, and the customers are changing the requirement, and we need to keep up with it. More than half of the organizations are prioritizing the speed over the quality, which means that we are sometimes sacrificing quality to make sure that we are delivering product to the customer. And around half of the organization reported that they lost money because of the quality. So taking into consideration this huge research, we can start thinking about how we can speed up stuff. If we take a look at the software development lifecycle, we can see that one of the longest part of it is testing, yes, generally. And today we'll talk about how we can speed up the testing part in the software development lifecycle. So let's talk about accelerating the iteration through the test automation, how we can speed up the iteration using a test automation. The test automation is a turbocharger for iteration, so we can make it faster, and on parallel of that, we will have the shifting left. We'll have the continuous integration and continuous testing, continuous deployment. We'll have faster feedback loops, so whenever developer did some change, we can get the feedback as fast as possible. And of course, reliable results. If we have an efficient test, we'll have reliable results. While we are talking about the UI testing, UI automation, and other automation like API and the unit, we always need to think about the test pyramid. I know that this is ideal, like everybody knows about the test pyramid, but I believe that we need to always keep in mind. We should always think about the proportion whenever we are doing the automation, because as higher in the pyramid, as expensive and hard to maintain the tests. So the UI test automation dilemma. So it's easy, yeah. It's comparing to others. It's easy to create and have a suite running there, but we always should think about downsides of the UI testing. It's costly. It's the most expensive type of the automation testing. It's slow because we are interacting with the UI and we are running end-to-end. It consumes a lot of resources because we need the servers, and we need the CI/CD pipelines to run, and we consume a lot of resources. And of course, the environmental impact. This is becoming very critical issue in our life because these informational technologies are having already very high impact on the environment. So let's talk about the parallel running. When we talk about the parallel running, we should think from the scratch. What it means, we need to prepare to be able to run in parallel. Because if you start creating your suite without thinking about parallelization, later it will be super, super hard to make them run in parallel. So when you start creating something new, please start thinking from the scratch that one day you will have to run them parallel. Because if you have a 100 tests, it's fine to run and get the result within them 2-3 hours. But when you have 8,000 tests, in one of my experiences, we were running around 12,000 Selenium tests, which was like on a huge application, and we were running it within the 40 minutes. Because it was prepared, it was designed, and we were running in 60 parallel runs. And we were using our own infrastructure, we were designing our own machines, and we were running parallel using the Dockerized images. So what does it mean when we talk about thinking in advance? So one of the most important things when we are starting creation of the automation suite and automation tests is the optimized data preparation. What it means, one of the, all the tests should be data-driven. I mean, every test should have its own data, which is isolated, and this test is not sharing this data with other tests. Maybe it will sound very time-consuming and resource-consuming, but believe me, whenever you start to run parallel, you will get return on that. Data management should be very dynamic. So, for example, in my experiences, what I'm doing usually, I'm using the API, and creating a user for each test, creating the user object and stuff, and then running the test, and then removing them. Beside the API, you can use some some database snapshots or importing data to the database before running the test. It depends on the application, because saying that every approach will work in every case, it's not true. So I'm just sharing my experience, which kind of the cases I have, and you can choose which one can work in your case. Mock data as much as you can. Don't test third-party applications. Let's say whenever you use Amazon services to send an email or send an SMS, you shouldn't check if the email received or not. So if you test it in the correct levels, you can find out that you are calling the correct endpoint from the Amazon with the correct data. And then you have a monitoring check, which is checking that the endpoint is there and working fine. And that should be enough to test. I mean, if the service is up, if you are sending the right request, so it means that we will send the email. Otherwise, otherwise we are testing the Amazon. So we are spending some money in our company to test third parties. Optimal test suite setup. This is very important from the scratch, because whenever you have more than 1,000 tests, you will get into the trouble of running them in parallel. So that's why it's better to use atomic tests. In the next slides, I will talk more about the atomic test, because it's one of the best designs I ever had, which helped me to run the test in parallel. The prioritized critical test, or tag test. In previous talk, we were hearing about tagging tests. That's one of the best approaches. You can have the priority critical suite, like medium suite, and the low priority suite. For example, in one of my projects, what we were doing, we were marking the test by based on the area. Let's say this test touches profile. This test touches settings. This is touching a feed. This is touching, and every test has its own set of the tags. And in the code, in the packages, we have the same tags. So the profile tags had a profile tag. So whenever we were opening the pull request, we were reading in which packages that file were changed. We're collecting all that tag, which is the same that we are tagging the test. And automatically, we were collecting the correct amount of the test, which is which could be caused by the changes. Basically, even you shouldn't select which test you want. It will it automatically checks the packages that were edited, And we're collecting all these tags and then running all the affected tests only. This is basically kind of keeping the balance of not running redundant tests. Another thing here is like, if you have automation tests which you have like more than 5 years and it's always green, how critical is it? Maybe we need to like reduce the priority and make it low and run it like once per week or once per release or something like that. And then modular design, we should be able to make everything modular, where class level, package level, test class level, so everything should be modular and we should be able to like locate and reuse anything we can. Okay, the parallel execution is basically speeding up your testing time. The power of many, as many threads you add, as faster you will get the results. So how many threads you can add? As much as you want, as much as you have money, because you need a stronger machine to run. Again, this is very interesting dilemma, because you can run like 10,000 tests within 10 minutes, but it will be very expensive. So it also should fit the business need. I had a cases whenever like running 8,000 tests in 30 minutes was slow for the company. I had a case whenever there were like 1,000 tests overnight running, it was okay for the company. It depends how fast company wants to run and how business is ready to pay for it. Shorter feedback loops are very important, because whenever developer did the change, as soon as they get the feedback on their change, as cheaper will be fixing all the problems. And there is a research that finding the problems within the development lifecycle is more than 100 times cheaper, rather than finding the same problem during the regression or whenever it went to the customer. And increasing the test coverage, we can use the parallelization to run on different browsers, on different capabilities, on mobile view, like on the desktop view, etc. So basically, this all the benefits that we can get from the parallel running. Designing the test data preparation. This is one of the important things that we need to keep in mind, that we need to think about data preparation right now, even we are not running in parallel, because tomorrow we will need it. Whenever there are more tests, we will need it. For every single test, we have to create the data, prepare the data. Then we need to run the test, and then we need to remove the test, like data that we created, to make sure that we are not creating like loss of data and we are not affecting to each other. This is very important to not use the data that another test created, because if another test will fail, the rest of the tests will be failed. This is kind of becoming dependent failures. Use the API if there is if it's available in your case, and in most cases there is an API. This is very interesting fact about like logging from the UI. I had lots of interviews. I have talks with conversation with the people in the conferences, and we discuss a lot. Whenever we are touching this logging into the application with the web application, it always comes to this discussion saying like, okay, we are logging, we are going to the login page, typing a login, a password, clicking the login, and how many times? As many as we have a test, but it means that we are doing a double coverage. We are testing the same login page multiple times. Is there another way? In most cases, there is another way. So what is happening whenever you type the username and a password and click on the login button? There's one simple action happening. Yeah, the post request is sent to the backend, and the backend is creating the session and sending me back the authentication token. And the browser actually itself using that authentication token to open the session and show you your profile. Why we can't just send that post request before the test run, get that authentication token, and using Selenium, Playwright, Cypress, whenever you use, and place this information in the browser data, like local storage or session, and whenever we refresh the page, we are logged in. And we shouldn't like type every time this login and a password. The same with the, let's say we are testing a product which is similar to Jira, and we need to create a project and then issue and the stuff. And let's say we need to test commenting in the issue, which means that we need to have a user, we need to log in with the user, we need to create a project, we need to create the issue, we need to make a comment on the issue and test it. The first 4 steps need to be done with the API in case of the possibility. I mean, if not, there is like database feeding or something like that. And in the ideal scenario, whenever I open the browser, I went to some URL, it should be already like issue URL, and I'm just going and typing the comment and checking that the comment it works. Okay, I have another test which is checking the project creation. But that's the only test which is going manually through the project creation. Okay, I have the login test where I'm typing the username and a password, and that's the only login test that I have, which success result with the failure result, etc. So I have one class which is responsible for the login, but that should be all. We should think about not doing like double coverage, triple coverage, and the multiple coverage, because this is the waste of time, and there is no efficiency at all. Good. Atomic test design is very important, and atomic test design comes to UI testing from the unit testing. In the unit testing, we always say one method should test one thing, just single thing, and then in the UI testing, it's not that simple. We always say that one test should test one thing, but in the UI preparation, sometimes it's tricky. And how many things we should check within the test, I don't know. It's based on your experience, based on your application. You need to decide on the fly how many assertions you're going to have. But there is one true thing that you need to have one specific functionality test. Your test shouldn't test logging, creation, the project, creation of the issue, and that will be very flaky, and it will not provide you a true feedback. So the test will fail while the developer was working on a comment, but the test will fail on the project creation. So it's not my fault, and you are giving a developer wrong results, and then the trust is going to be less than should. So atomic tests are enabling you to run your test in parallel because they are small, they are compact, they are testing one thing, and they are independent and isolated, so you can run them parallel. It's easy to maintain because they are small. Whenever it fails in the comments, you know that problem is in comments. It shouldn't be another thing. It's reducing debugging time because it's small again. You know every test, every functionality is test one thing, and it's easy to debug. It provides quicker feedback, so it runs quicker, and you can provide that feedback to the developers as quick as possible. So I will run through this slide very fast because it's about the Selenium grid, one of the tools that allows us to run parallel, and not only for Selenium, but also, for example, for Playwright. I mean, you can use the same grid to run Playwright. I don't know how. I wouldn't say that it's much efficient, but whenever you are using Selenium, but you have the infrastructure to run the Selenium test, and you want to experiment something with the Playwright, you can reuse your infrastructure to do so, to not be blocked because of the infrastructure to use something. And this is the new architecture. There is nothing new. I mean, you can find all this detailed information in them. In their website. There is a node, there is a bus, there is a queue, and basically it's managing all the parallel runs. We are out of time, so I will go a bit faster to show you one of the examples. This is a setup of this grid, and this is the demo, and the code can be found in my GitHub repository, how you can run them parallel. And this is using the same Selenium grid, running Selenium and the Playwright tests on the same grid. and you can do the view inside, and this will be super, super easy to do if you design your framework correctly from the beginning, thinking about the atomic testing, thinking about the design, and it will be super easy to run them in 5, 6, 7 parallel runs. And this solution is allowing you to use one machine and run parallel threads within the one machine, because it's creating separate Docker containers within the one machine, and all your environments are isolated within the one machine. So you are in one machine, but there's Docker containers, and everything is isolated. And the second one, actually, the Playwright test. All the tests with the Java TypeScript you can find in my GitHub, and you can explore how I'm creating with the API, doing all the stuff. And in another repository, there is an application under the test that you can find, and even you can run in your local machine and play around it. And that's all. Thank you very much. We are out of time for 1 minute, but we can go switch to the questions, and
A round of applause, please. Thank you. Let's see, what do we have? You run tests for pull requests based on the code changes. How often did that lead to you not catching integration problems caused in other areas?
Yeah, there is always risk. Yeah, as I answered also the question in the beginning, the meaning of our job in the quality engineering is reducing the risk in the software development lifecycle. And in this case, we are reducing the risk, but we are not completely removing the risk. Yes, we are skipping some amount of the test running in the pull request, but daily we are running all the suite. So the worst case that we will miss something, not running all the suite, will be like 1 day. So sometimes once per month missing something and finding that over the next day is much efficient, rather than always running the test and then having the same result, spending more resources and money.
Another question, any experience with Moon for UI automation?
The Moon is, if I'm not mistaken, it's Selenoid. Yeah. Not really, because what I'm really doing, I'm always setting up my own infrastructure. Right now, we are setting up everything in Amazon servers, just using the Dockerized containers, spinning up on Amazon, running, and then destroying the image. It is cheaper, but it is hard to maintain. If you have the skill set to set up everything and do it, it's cheap. But if you don't have the knowledge in-house, it's totally fine to use Moon UI or SourceLab, browser stack, whenever it will be convenient for you. It will be make your life easier and faster runs for you.
Will the presentation be available later? This is a question actually for you, but I can answer.
Yeah.
If you say approve, yes, there will be a PDF available on the website, and also a YouTube video will be linked to our YouTube channel on the WhoStaff and HTB, so you can find that later on.
It will be there.
Okay, so you give your approval.
Yeah.
Let's see another one. Can atomicity also apply to the case when we generate tests based on a model, for example, page object model?
Yes, it has to be with the page object model. I mean, one is the pattern, one is more like a design. So they can live together, so they don't have anything, against each other.
And please link to GitHub. I think it's not a question; it's a ask of the audience.
Yes, there is one QR code in the presentation. You can scan it, and there is also a link in the last slide of my GitHub, so you can find it there. And there are much more open source projects that you can use and reuse it.
Thank you very much, Sargis.
Good.
Another round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. And if you have any other question, just ping me outside or send me a message whenever you face an issue and you need help.
Yes, you can do that via Avanti.
Yeah.
You can send him a message.
Thank you very much.